Hello everyone, this is John from All Miniatures Great and Small. Today we're going to be doing something a little bit different. We're going to be looking at Star Wars X-Wing, the miniatures game, but specifically we're going to be looking at the new T70 XWing. You get one of those rather fantastic models in the new core set, which you see right here. So we're going to take a closer look at the T70 XWing, compare it to previous versions of the X-Wing, and see what we get with the new movie. Alright, here's the T70 XWing from episode 7. You get one of these in the core starter set. So here we have it, it's in its blue markings. This is a very nice paint job. It's pre-painted, and this X-Wing is excellent. You can definitely see an improvement, and we'll take a look at a little bit later here between this one and the original X-Wing that came in the first core starter set. So you can actually see some of the detail there. The blue markings are very crisp. The only thing that I'm a little disappointed in is the detail on the astromech, which is nothing. It's just a gray painted dome, so no detail or anything there. But it's not anything we can fix with a little bit of paint. So there you go, very slick, very nice profile. The fighter looks fantastic, and again a little bit later we'll be taking a look at the stats. So there you go, that's the T70 XWing from The Force Awakens. Now here we have the new T70 XWing from the new core set next to an original unmodified T65 XWing from the original core set. So this one has not been modified at all. Get a little bit closer so you can see. Again, the detail is not bad on here, so I'm not complaining by any stretch of the imagination, but you can tell that FFG has really improved their pre-paint process. It is kind of splotchy. Some of the wash is a little thick in some areas. Overall it looks good. The one thing that always bugged me about these were the markings. They weren't quite what you'd see on an X-Wing from the original trilogy. So we have some painted ones that we've modified that we'll be showing you also here in just a little bit. But this is a stock version compared to what you're seeing here. You can see the detail, the wash is much more controlled, and overall the paint job looks better. So that's the original X-Wing from the original core set and the T70 from the new core set. Next up we have another T65 XWing. This is another stock X-Wing, but it comes from the Rebel transport. It's the epic-sized transport ship that FFG released probably a little over a year ago. So this X-Wing shows a big improvement over the original X-Wing just in paint scheme and wash. So we'll compare that to the this is the original core set X-Wing, and this is the T65 XWing from the Rebel transport. So here you can overall see that the markings are a little bit better. There's more of them. The ship is better detailed. You know, the astromech is red on this one. There's actually pinstriping on the engines. The Rebel markings are the same, but otherwise, overall, I love this model from the Rebel transport. It's one of the few ships I have not actually added additional paint to. Kept it stock as is, so here you can get a good example of that. And here's the T65 XWing from the Rebel transport and the T70 from the new core set. So you can see the quality of the paint scheme here is pretty comparable. Both of these ships look awesome. You really can't complain. Alright, so now we're moving on to some of the repaints. So the first one that I repainted or really touched up is Luke's Red 5. So This is really the stock paint job, so I didn't really change the base color or start from scratch. I thought, you know, it's perfectly acceptable the way it was. So I concentrated more on trying to make more screen accurate markings. So you'll see the 5 red hash marks on the wings that represent Red 5, Luke's signature ship. The other thing I tried to do is capture all the weathering and particular markings for Luke's ship. He had a prominent yellow stripe on his nose, red sections missing from the sides of his ship. So I tried to include all those so you get an idea that this guy's that. Even with R2, don't know if you can see him there, tried to give him some blue so you could tell that it was him. Overall, I like all of the X-Wings from the original Star Wars movie, Episode 4. So I've actually gone in and all of the pilots from Episode 4, the assault on the original Death Star, that have ace cards, that have pilot cards, I've gone in and created custom X-Wings so that I have screen accurate X-Wings for those, as close as possible considering the scale. This job that I've done here is pretty simple. I'll include a link down below to my blog where I go into a little bit more detail about how I did these, what color paints I used. If you guys are interested, check it out, leave a comment. But here's Red 5. We'll be taking a look at the rest of Red Squadron here. Next up we have Wedge's Red 2. So he flew Red 2 in the assault on the first Death Star. Here again, I've gone in, I did a lot of web research, because not only do I like X-Wings in this scale, I actually like larger scale X-Wing models. I like building those. So here I tried to create a screen accurate as I could, considering the scale. Again, this is just using a stock X-Wing from the core starter set. So I kept the weathering, kept the initial paint job, but I went in and Red 2, he has 2 red hash marks on his wings. He had a prominent, the red markings we're covering some yellow. Wedge has a lot of yellow and mustard on his X-Wing, which probably means that the X-Wing came from another squadron and was hastily repainted to Red Squadron colors. So that's Wedge Red 2, pretty popular pilot in the game. He's the highest skill level pilot skill 9, even better than Luke. And if you read any of the expanded universe, formerly canon, but now I guess it's not, there's a whole series of books dealing with how awesome Wedge is, and with this X-Wing and the game you could relive a lot of those. So that is Red 2. Alright, next up we have Biggs in Red 3. So Biggs, if you don't remember, was Luke's childhood friend who bought it in the Death Star trench. He basically served as an extra pair of shields for Luke. So here he's Red 3, so you can see we've got 3 red hash marks on the wings. Kind of like Wedge, he's got some yellow on him, some mustard color. He does have some additional panels. Red 3 is a pretty clean X-Wing, so there's not too much to him. As far as the game goes, Biggs seems to be a pilot who's used probably the most often. He's a great meat shield to keep the rest of your squadron alive and let them do their thing. So there you have Red 3. Alright, this is RedOne, or Red Leader. So he was the leader of the X-Wing squadron that attacked the Death Star. His name's Garvin, and I like his X-Wing. So again, this is just a stock X-Wing, painted up with markings to better match RedOne. Now he, again, a single hash mark for RedOne. His X-Wing was pretty clean. It's one of the cleanest X-Wings, but he did have some unique scorch marks on his nose, so you can kind of see that there, so we try to capture that. That's one of the big distinguishing features of the RedOne model. So you can kind of see a little bit different, a little bit less weathering than the other X-Wings. RedOne or Red Leader. Now here we have RedFour. RedFour, as far as the history of X-Wings goes, in Episode 4 is a bit of a mystery. So there's not a lot of pictures of what RedFour really looked like. Most people in the know think it was one of the models that they exploded to capture on film. So it doesn't really exist anymore, and there weren't very many pictures of it. So this was going to be Porkins' X-Wing. The neat thing or interesting thing about that was the canopy frame, unlike almost all the other X-Wings, was a yellow or mustard colored. At some point ILM painted it blue again, but I always thought it was a neat way to distinguish or have that X-Wing stand out. So I kept the mustard. He has 4 hash marks for RedFour. That pretty much concludes the pilots from Episode 4, that assault on the Death Star. There are some additional X-Wing pilots that have been added to the game. Most of them are expanded universe, but these ones that we have here are all the ones that are kind of named pilots in the game and participated in the run on the Death Star in Episode 4. So this way it gives me a distinct individual X-Wing to play for each one of these named pilots, if I want to. Otherwise, I've got the generics to go for, generic, Red Squadron pilot or something like that. But otherwise, as you can tell, since the number of X-Wings is growing on my table, that I really like the X-Wing. Game-wise, it's a so-so fighter. It's been kind of eclipsed by other stuff that have come out in the game. It's not a terrible fighter by any stretch of the imagination, but it is probably not where it should be. The new T70 XWing has improved stats. It obviously costs more in the game, but they make a nice partnership. So even with the new X-Wing out, I don't think your standbys like Biggs or Wedge or Luke are going to be going anywhere or disappearing from the tabletop anytime soon. So there you have it. Those are the Episode 4 Attack on the Death Star Red Squadron X-Wings. Alright, so here's the group shot. We have the 2 T70 X-Wings in here. The rest of them are old school T65 X-Wings. I got a nice little squadron going. I could probably add a couple more. I'd love to do specific paint jobs for the other named pilots that appeared in the Rebel Transport expansion, folks like Wes Jansen. But there's no canon paint job for him, and I don't think the fan community has decided or settled on an X-Wing variant. So we will see about those, but otherwise we'll see if the new movie gives us anything besides this. I know Poe, we've seen Lego kits and toys where Poe's X-Wing is actually black and orange. I'm not sold on that paint scheme yet. It looks kind of Halloween-like to me, and I'm not sure about making a movie where the spaceship is painted black against the black of space. But I do like the T70 X-Wing. I think it's very slick looking, and it's a very nice addition to the game. So next up we'll be taking a look at the stat cards for the X-Wings, kind of going over the differences in a little bit more detail in game. Okay, we're going to start with a baseline here. So we've got a T65 XWing. This is Rookie Pilot. It's the cheapest X-Wing available in the core set. Pilot Skill 2. He has 3 attack, 2 defense, 3 hull, and 2 shields. He can focus and target lock. He has slots for an R2 unit and torpedoes. He costs 21 points. So at a typical 100-point match, you can field 4 of these guys with some pretty decent upgrades. The T70 X-Wing, this is a Blue Squadron novice. He also is Pilot Skill 2, so they're pretty equivalent there. The T70 has 3 attack, just like the T65 X-Wing, 2 defense, 3 hull, The difference here is 3 shields instead of 2 shields. So it takes 6 hits to knock out a T70 XWing, so that's a significant boost in survivability. As far as actions, the focus and target lock remain, but the T70 picks up boost, which is very nice. Experienced X-Wing players will know that boost will open up things like the ever popular and helpful auto thrusters card, something that the regular original X-Wing can't take. In addition, they have a slot for torpedoes, R2 units, and also a new slot, which is a tech upgrade slot. So right now there's only one tech upgrade card, I believe, in the starter set, but it's a new slot that's going to be able to be used with these newer ships and give them some bonuses that just aren't going to be available for old school X-Wings and other ships. Otherwise, they are pretty similar. The only other difference is the T70 dial. The T70 X-Wing does have a couple of new maneuvers that, again, the original X-Wing just doesn't have. So there are some differences there as well. But otherwise, these two are very close. The T70 X-Wing costs 24 points. You can still take 4 of these in a 100-point list, but you only have 4 more points to buy upgrades or make an initiative bid. So they are pretty close. So you're paying 3 extra points for your T70. You're picking up a shield. You're picking up boost. You're picking up an improvement in your dial. Is it worth it? Yeah, probably. A single shield upgrade card, I believe, is a 4-point upgrade. So we can see that the X-Wing is kind of lagging behind. I think overall the X-Wing feels like it might be 1 or 2 points too expensive for what it offers. The T70 X-Wing hasn't been out enough. I haven't played enough games with it personally to have a judgment either way. It still has that new car smell to it. Still pretty sweet looking model. So all of that can kind of be impacting how this thing, your perception of how it's performing on the field. But I really like the T70. Is it going to replace the X-Wing? Well, I think it's going to replace the stock X-Wing. To be honest, in competitive builds, these stock fighters, I don't think are going to see much play either one, the original X-Wing or the T70 X-Wing. I think it comes down to the named pilots and the skills that they bring. Alright, now we're going to jump to the high end of this spectrum, the highest point cost pilots for both types of fighters. Here we've got Wedge Antilles. He is a pilot skill 9. The ship is the same, obviously. He does pick up an elite pilot talent slot. His special ability is when attacking, he can reduce the defender's agility by 1 to a minimum of 0. So he's really good at dropping the agility of TIE fighters down to something where he could possibly one-shot them. Pretty popular pilot. That's a pretty powerful skill. Compared to Poe Dameron, who is our new pilot from the new movie, Wedge is only 2 points cheaper. Poe comes in at 31 points. He is pilot skill 8, so he's not quite as good as Wedge as far as pilot skill goes. His special ability is when attacking or defending, if he has a focus, you can change one of your focus eyeballs to a hit or an evade. So basically, he doesn't necessarily have to spend that focus. If he has it and he rolls one eyeball, he can use his ability to turn that into a hit or evade and keep the focus maybe for defense in a later attack. So that's a pretty sweet ability for Poe, and it's designed to keep him in the game and make him hit hard. Which pilot is better? Well, that's kind of personal preference. I think Wedge is just your hammer. He hits those ships hard. Poe looks like he might have a little bit more staying power, a little bit more consistent with his damage. So there you have kind of the two highest level X-Wing pilots that are currently in the game for the regular X-Wing and the T70 X-Wing. And just to highlight the new maneuver that the T70 has, it's called the Talon Roll, and here we can see on the T70 dial what that looks like. And it's actually on the new templates. In the new core starter set, you'll actually see that same symbol here. So that maneuver, instead of a flip, it's basically almost like a combination of a K-turn and a barrel roll, because you can slide your ship in and out, which gives you a little bit more options. So that is a stress maneuver, so you will be stressed after doing it. But it does give you a lot of options. If you need to turn around but someone's blocked your normal K-turn, this Talon Roll will help you out immeasurably. Combined with things like boost, the maneuverability of this T70 XWing is really quite impressive. Granted, it's no TIE interceptor, probably won't outfly soon to your fell, but it is no slouch either. So there you have the Talon Roll. So there you go, guys. That's kind of a brief history of the X-Wing, taking a look at the X-Wing, old and new. What's my final verdict on this T70 X-Wing? I love it. I think it's great. I've always loved blue X-Wings to begin with. The original X-Wings from Star Wars were painted blue, but they had problems with the blue screen, so they painted them red. But now we've got official Blue Squadron in the new movie. So again, just another nod back to the origins of Episode 4. In game, so far I've been loving this. Granted, Jake has destroyed them several times already, but I'm still coming to terms with, this ship can boost, but it's still only agility 2. So concentrated fire, it's going to go down sooner rather than later. But the model, it's gorgeous. I'm really looking forward to the expansion pack that will have one of these plus some new pilots in the core starter set. It's kind of slim pickings. Poe is the only named pilot in the core starter set. The other guys are just generics. Granted, they have elite pilot talents, but no skill. So Poe is your only skillful guy in the core set. And we might have to wait for the new movie before they release the single X-Wing pack with additional pilots and R2 units and the like. So there you have it. In the comments down below, let me know, what do you think about this new X-Wing? What's your experience flying it? Are you going to replace these X-Wings, or your old X-Wings, with these new ones? Do you think X-Wings are competitive at all? So let me know down there. I'll also include a link to my blog where I have some painting tutorials if you guys want to check out how I did some of these. Some of these. You can check those out and see what paints and whatnot I recommended. So there you go. Thanks for watching, and if you like, go ahead and like the video and let us know.